willing to pay, and Delphi played a crucial role in international diplomacy and war, as well as in conquest and colonization. The religious personnel at Delphi were particularly well informed about geography, which they may well have learned from the international crowd that flocked there, and the oracles often gave precise geographical hints. More importantly, perhaps, for understanding their significance, oracles often granted a sort of divine title to other people's land. A divine title can be helpful in colonization efforts, which frequently involve taking land from other people. The Christian Church would later play a similar role in sanctioning the colonization of non-Christian territories. Divine titles, backed up by military force, have proven useful. The most famous oracle, I suppose, was offered to King Croesus when he contemplated attacking Persia. According to Herodotus, the Delphic oracle told him that if he should make war on the Persians, he would destroy a mighty empire. The oracle also told him to make the most powerful of the Greeks his allies. After careful inquiry, Croesus concluded that the most powerful of the Greeks were the Spartans. Croesus, I should add, consulted the oracle on numerous occasions. This was far from the only message he received. He came to value the advice of Delphi, and as a result sent such great gifts to the oracle that he was granted the right to skip the line. Alas, Croesus misinterpreted the oracle concerning his contemplated war of aggression against the Persians. Croesus attacked, and a mighty empire did indeed fall, his own.
Wow.
It is unfair, however, to single out a misinterpreted oracle. The oracle, in fact, proved true. The recipient's interpretation was faulty. And this point illustrates an important aspect of oracles.
Oh, excuse me. Welcome back, everybody. We are proceeding another session of the pagan world, ancient religions. This is crazy work. So this guy goes to the oracle to get advice. The oracle tells him, if you wage war against the Persians, a mighty empire will fall. That statement in itself is unclear. So, my boy, you thought she meant you was gonna win against the Persian. The Persian army, they ruthless. They never give up. As a matter of fact, the Persians are still alive. Later generations, of course, they don't have the big army like they used to. It's dwindled down since then. But I'm pretty sure if you do a Google search for the current name, state, country of Persia, it's still there. It's just under a different name. Most of the places in the Bible and in ancient times are still around. They just have different names. Rome is still around, and they're using the name Rome. But the Rome of today is not the Rome of yesterday. But I just, man, I thought that was funny. He was just convinced he was going to win this fight and get his ass whipped. That's crazy. Oh, well, let's continue.
Oracles required intelligent interpretation and careful application. How then did one go about asking, and in what form did the inquirer receive answers? Originally, according to our ancient sources, consultation was permissible only 1 day per year in March, the 7th of Bysius, which was Apollo's birthday. In the historical period, however, the oracle was operated every month, although we do not know precisely how frequently. We are told that 3 days before pronouncing an oracular response, a priestess, that is the Pythia, would prepare by fasting and bathing in the Castalian spring. Ritual bathing would have been required of the inquirers as well. Originally there was a single Pythia, but the number was increased to 2, with a third in reserve in case something happened to one of the 2 active priestesses. The Pythia had to be an unmarried woman of Delphi, who devoted her life to service of the god. She would not be allowed to marry. Women who had been or were married could be chosen, but they could not serve in the married state. They had to relinquish that status as well as all family ties. And even when older women were selected, the Pythia was always dressed as if she were a young unmarried girl.
Meaning, that would be the equivalent of a nun. You're taking a vow of celibacy. You're taking a vow to do no unclean acts. Your body must be pure. But we know how some of them nuns get down. We didn't hear, everybody didn't hear the stories about them nuns. That's crazy. But yeah, they was dead ass serious about these girls being pure. That's why they always gathered when they were young and not older, And you can't be married, because if you're married, you got to consummate the marriage, which means you getting it in at some point in time. No, different times back then. Different times.
On the day set for consultation, the names were selected by lot, and this determined the order in which visitors could ask their questions. This use of the lot, too, is worth contemplating. We consider a lottery a function of chance. The ancients considered, on the other hand, a lottery as a means to let the gods decide. The gods determined the order. Chance, fortune, we may note, was also a goddess in her own right, and riches are an indication of good fortune and divine favor. Those who had donated immense treasures, like Croesus, were granted promontia, or advanced consultation, and could skip the line. A formal ceremony would determine whether the day was auspicious and thus permissible for consultation. This could have been determined theoretically from the observation of the flight of birds, but at Delphi the rule was to conduct a sacrifice with an attendant examination of the victim's internal organs. Victims included boars, goats, and oxen. The victims had to be perfect and healthy. Oxen had to eat barley with gusto. Boars were tested with chickpeas. Water was poured on the goats. Animals generally were required to nod consent when led to the altar. At Delphi, the animal also had to tremble for the omens to be good. Assuming the omens were good, the Pythia would burn laurel leaves, barley flour, and incense on the altar, mount a tripod that stood above the chasm, and breathe in the vapors. Ancient vase paintings depict the scene, and the theme has been a favorite for artists since the Renaissance as well. The priestess would sometimes convulse, make noises, cry out. A prophet or priest stood next to her, and it was his job to interpret the noises that she made and write out the prophecy in intelligible language, which he did in dactylic hexameter, the same verse form in which Homer and other poets composed their epics. Not all the verses of the Delphic oracle scanned properly, which seems odd for a message conveyed by a priestess of Apollo, but that is a different conversation. Let us return to the vapor-intoxicated or god-possessed priestess and her interpretive prophet. Did he breathe the fumes too? What was in the vapor? I can see that many of you are already concocting theories, but these are not questions that we can answer definitively.
Weed. Opium.
What matters, at least to my mind, is that weird as this system may appear to us at first glance, it was taken seriously for centuries and played a powerful role in personal, governmental, and international affairs. Consider this oracle, as recorded by the historian Herodotus, which was given to the Athenians when they faced the Persian invasion. Pallas strives in vain to appease great Zeus of Olympus. Words of entreaty are useless, as are cunning counsels of wisdom. Nonetheless, advice will I give you again of strength adamantine. All shall be taken and lost that the sacred border of Cecrops holds in keeping today. And the dales of divine Cithaeron, yet shall a wood-built wall by Zeus all-seeing be granted unto the Triton born, a stronghold for you and your children. The oracle was alarming. Athena, patron goddess of Athens, cannot allay her father Zeus's anger. The Athenians are told that they should abandon their city, as everything would be captured from the sacred border of Cecrops to the divine dales of Mount Cithaeron. The Athenians are encouraged, however, by the wood-built wall that Zeus grants to the Triton-born, that is, to his daughter Athena, which will serve as their stronghold. What the oracle meant by wood-built wall, however, engendered a great debate. The opinion of the general Themistocles prevailed. Themistocles argued that the oracle did not refer to a conventional wall on land built from wood, but instead to the wooden hulls of ships. Athens should thus entrust their safety to their navy and the wooden walls of their ships. The gods offered guidance, but it is left to human intelligence.
Oh my goodness. Sorry about that. It's hot. Mosquitoes bother me. But I remember hearing that name, Athenians, associated with the 300, the Spartans. And the 300 did, I don't know if this is before the 300 or after, I'm assuming it's before, but the Athenians did join the Spartans. But I think they got decimated, or either they turned tail and went home. It was an interesting story. I would suggest anybody that's interested in historical movies, that there was a lot of truth told in the movie 300. It's, as a movie, it's good. As a period piece, there's a lot of truth being told. Like there's one part where the king says something to somebody, and then his wife chimes in, and they said that that particular sentence, the interaction that happened actually happened in real life. It was recorded. I was like, wow, they put that in there? That's crazy. The Spartan women wasn't no joke either. But yeah, if you get a chance, if you haven't seen it already, watch 300. There's two of them, but you want to watch the first 300, not the second one. The first one is excellent. It's good. Really good. Now, back to our show.
What the oracle meant by wood-built wall, however, engendered a great debate. The opinion of the general Themistocles prevailed. Themistocles argued that the oracle did not refer to a conventional wall on land built from wood, but instead to the wooden hulls of ships. Athens should thus entrust their safety to their navy and the wooden walls of their ships. The gods offered guidance, but it is left to human intelligence to use the information wisely. Human effort is always required, We may conclude this too brief examination of the oracle at Delphi with perhaps one of the more famous personal oracles. In Plato's portrait of Socrates' apology, that is, the speech Socrates delivered in his own defense against charges of impiety, atheism, and worshipping different gods from the city's gods, Socrates tells the story of his friend Chaerephon, who asked the Pythia whether there was anyone wiser than Socrates. The oracle responded that there was indeed no human being wiser than Socrates. Socrates tells the jury, "When I heard this, I thought to myself, what in the world does the god Apollo mean? And what riddle is he propounding? For I am conscious that I am not wise, either much or little. What then does he mean by declaring that I am the wisest? He certainly cannot be lying, for that is not possible for him." Socrates undertakes extensive investigation of the wisdom claimed by politicians, by skilled craftsmen, and by poets, all of whom, Socrates discovers, lay claim to wisdom beyond their special fields. Socrates also demonstrates that these people who think they know something beyond their special fields are doubly incompetent, inasmuch as they do not know what they claim to know, and they do not know that they do not know what they claim to know. Socrates comes to the conclusion that his own superior wisdom consists in knowing that he does not know what he does not know.
Now, I understood that reference. So, at everybody's job, there's this one guy that just thinks he's the man. He knows everything, everybody from every department. He can get you this, he can get you that. Oh yeah, I know a guy, he did this and he did that. But then, when it's crunch time and you ask him, well, how do I do this? Oh man, I don't even know. Oh, just last week, you knew a guy, but you know somebody that does it, but you don't actually do it yourself, so you don't know. So you a fraud. You acting like you big man and you know everything. But then when I ask you to help me figure this out, you don't want to touch it. Nope, ain't go. No, I don't know nothing about that. But you're so boastful and prideful. But then when they put to the test, they fail. And when he says that Socrates was saying that he understood that he doesn't know everything, that's the, how can I say this? A wise man is wise because he knows his limitations. Put it like that. A wise man is wise because he knows his limitations. He knows that there are some things he just don't know. And he might know something, but that don't mean he understands how that thing works. So he knows that he has shortcomings. Yeah, I know about it. I heard about it, but that's not something I engage in. So I can't tell you the ins and outs of. I can't explain how to do that. Now he might know somebody, make a phone call, but he himself understands that no, that's not his forte. You got people that go to school, medical school. They might know about all types of doctrines, but they usually specialize in one segment or the other. You got your general practitioner doctors, then you got your specialists. You got your, the eye, ear, and throat specialists. You got your foot specialists. You're not going to go to a foot doctor to find out what's wrong with your ear. You're going to go to the foot doctor if you got foot problems. Chiropractor, back doctor. You know? So it's a lot going on with that. But at the end of the day, it's better to understand what you know, and with that, also what you don't know. You may know a lot of stuff, but that don't mean you understand it. Usually, wisdom comes from experience. You know something, you practice it, now you understand how that thing works. So you can relay that to other people. You know, well, this is how you do this, and this is how you do that. And when it works, when they do take your advice and they do the thing and it works, then they're like, damn, that dude know what he's talking about. And they're going to tell others. And now you have a reputation for being a wise person. I'm just saying.
I wonder why time runs by so quickly. Let us examine, in even briefer conspectus, some other major sanctuaries in order to obtain a better idea of the range of sanctuaries on offer. Delphi was Panhellenic. Hero cult, on the other hand, was decidedly local. Just as families and clans cared for their dead, cities cared for their heroes. Heroes were spiritual beings who had lived extraordinary lives as men, and who, as a result, still retained some powers after their earthly demise. In some respects, their cult was similar to the services paid by families to their deceased relatives. In other respects, hero cult was closer to the forms of worship that were offered to gods. The extreme case of Heracles demonstrates an instance where the hero was actually raised to a life among the Olympians themselves, but his case was atypical. A more typical hero was one who resisted, as an earth god, to use Greek and Latin, a chthonic deity, that is, a divine spirit who was tied to a particular piece of ground, and thus a protector of the locality or city. A vase from the 4th century BCE depicts the cult of the hero Oedipus. Its images depict worshippers who bring the sorts of offerings one might bring to the modest grave of a relative, namely food offerings, wine for libations, weaponry, sacrifice, prayers, songs. Hero cults could also be used for political purposes. The democratic reformer Cleisthenes, who wanted to prevent geographical dominance by any particular region of Athens, coastal, city, or inland countryside. So in order to form groups that were not based on clan membership, Cleisthenes obtained from the oracle at Delphi the names of 10 heroes. The citizenry was then organized into 10 tribes, named after these 10 eponymous heroes. Eponymous is the Greek word for named after. The eponymous heroes are the heroes after whom the tribes are named, and their bronze statues once featured prominently in the Agora, or central market of Athens. Even today, we can still see the base of their statues. And the American School of Classical Studies in Athens, which leads excavations in the Athenian Agora, offers in the Agora Museum models that reconstruct what this central meeting place looked like in different periods in the history of Athens. The monument of the 10 eponymous heroes also served as a place for people to gather news about tribal matters, as notices would be posted at the relevant statue. We can compare the information one gathers at social functions associated with religious life, or the business deals that can begin over coffee after a service.
That information I am not familiar with. So, there we go. I'm admitting that although I'm familiar with this genre, I don't know everything. I'm not an expert. That's why I'm relaying what I've learned with you all from others who are better suited to discuss these matters than I. And with that, we've come to the end of our session. Stay blessed, and I will talk to you later.